everyone, thanks for clicking on today's video. My name is Sissy, and today's recipe I actually made on St. Patrick's Day this year, and it was a big hit. However, just because this has Guinness and Bailey's in it, I don't think it has to be exclusively for St. Patrick's Day, as it is delicious whenever. This was my first time making a bundt cake. I had to get the mold or baking pan or whatever you call it, and it was fun. Cakes, in my opinion, are always a little tricky because every oven is different, but this cake came out nice and moist, which is great because who likes a dry cake? Today's recipe is a decadent chocolate bundt cake. The recipe will be linked below, and I would love to hear how it turned out for you if you have also tried this recipe. Side note, I actually like getting the recipes from the Pioneer Woman website because it just goes right into the recipe without a backstory, and there are fewer ads. I find when I click on some recipes, the site literally bogs down either my phone or the computer with the amount of ads splattered across it. I once wanted to try a recipe I was super excited about, but the site kept glitching and the ads kept covering the words that I finally just gave up and didn't even attempt it. Do you ever feel like this? The ingredient list for today's recipe includes chocolate chips. The recipe called for semi-sweet, but I used dark chocolate instead, and I think it paired so well with the other flavors. Guinness, sugar. The recipe called for 2 types of sugar, regular granulated and brown sugar, but I just used brown sugar. Butter, cocoa powder, sour cream, eggs, vanilla extract, flour, baking soda, salt, cream cheese, powdered sugar, and Irish cream. I used the Costco's version of Bailey's. So sometimes when a recipe calls for a certain size of an item, like a bowl, I find that it doesn't always matter. However, for this recipe, I discovered that size indeed matters in this case and made the mistake of using too small a bowl, which did bite me in the behind later on. Please don't be like me and use a big old bowl and pour all that delicious chocolate into the bowl. Then, in a saucepan, whisk together a can of Guinness, 2.5 cups of sugar, and 11 whole tablespoons of butter until simmering and everything is mixed together nicely. Then add in a 1/3 cup of cocoa powder and pour the whole mixture over the chocolate chips. As you can see, my bowl was way too small, which you will later notice that everything did not mix up as well, and there ended up being grainy bits and portions that weren't fully mixed in. So if I make this again, I will definitely be better at mixing everything up, but fortunately, it didn't take away from the taste, just the look. In a different bowl, mix together 2.5 cups of flour, 2.5 teaspoons of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. Add in 3/4 cups of sour cream, 2 eggs, 1 egg yolk, and 2.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Side note on that too, what do you do with the extra egg whites? I've got like a container of egg whites because I just don't know what to do with them. If you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear from you. To follow the recipe, add in the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients to mix together, but obviously I had no room, so I added the wet to the dry and mixed together, which probably also contributed to the less than fully mixed together concoction. The bundt pan required a spray that had flour in it, but I couldn't find something like that, so I just sprayed with avocado oil and threw in some flour. I think it worked, sort of. Then, super easy, cook it for 45-ish minutes at 350 degrees, and then let it cool before flipping it, which surprisingly wasn't as terrifyingly difficult as I thought it would be. To make the icing, mix together 2 ounces of cream cheese and 1 tablespoon of butter, which looks so little, until it's all nice and creamy, and then add in 1.5 cups of powdered sugar and finish it off with a minimum of 2 tablespoons of Irish cream. I read the comments of this recipe, and people suggested extra Irish cream, so obviously I had to do that. I did add a couple of teaspoons of water to make the icing a little runny, and well, my incredible decorating skills just speak for themselves, I think. Like I said before, even though this is definitely a perfect St. Patrick's Day cake, this cake can be made anytime, and despite the fact that I blundered with not having a large enough bowl and not combining the ingredients as well, it was tasty and pretty easy to make. Very rich, moist, and that icing really makes the cake. You can definitely taste both the Guinness and the Bailey's, and even though I personally am not a fan of cake, even I liked this one. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you again soon.